This is the Goat Bakar Government Girls Primary School in a village near the bustling city of Lahore, Pakistan. This school is a central part of this film because it is where our journey began. My name is Maryam.
And my name is Nivaal.
We're twin activists, journalists, and filmmakers based in Toronto, Canada. We're originally from Pakistan and were born and raised there until we were 5 years old before moving to Canada.
We go back to Pakistan often, and after we finished high school a semester early, we went back to Pakistan to explore the status of girls' education there. Here's what we discovered.
Our grandmother actually donated some of her land to have this school built, and we visited the school for the first time when we were 8 years old, and we've been connected to the school ever since. We were very excited to meet the girls at the school, and we learned that they were going to quit school when they reached grade 5 because they would have to work to support their families. One of the places where many of the girls worked was the local carpet making factory. We visited the girls and asked them about their work, and one of the things that we found was that their work did not require them to be educated, and girls that were really young could be doing this work as well because they use different codes and thread colors to be able to make the carpets.
ये जितनी भी इसमें वर्डिंग है वो इन कलर्स से रिलेटेड होती है, वो जो इससे मैच करता है। अच्छा, जो जिस नंबर का आएगा वो आपने कलर यूज करना है।
While the working conditions were not ideal and the girls had to sit down for hours on end working on a single carpet, they were happy that they were able to find some sort of income to support their families. This shocked us, and we knew that we had to do something. We told them that educating themselves would be able to get them better jobs that would, in the long term, help them support their families even more because they would have better income and also better working conditions. And over the next 5 years, during our family trips to Pakistan, we did all that we could to convince the girls to continue their education. We held empowerment workshops and spoke to their parents, which was not an easy task all the time, especially at first, because often our efforts were not taken seriously. We were the same age as the girls, and many times the adults would brush us away. But eventually they started to listen, and we would have discussions on the importance of education and what that would mean for their families. And education is vital in breaking the cycle of poverty that many of these families found themselves in. They had to think about how to put food on their tables that day. Not recognizing the long-term benefit of educating their daughters made them decide to send them to work. We had resolved to fix this issue and persistently discuss the benefits of an education with the parents and their girls. In 2015, during our trip to Pakistan then, we learned that some of these girls were actually going to high school. It was the first time in our activism journey that we realized our actions could have an impact. 4 years after our last trip to Pakistan, we returned there in 2019. One of the first things that we did was go to our village and hold workshops with the kids there. We started our workshops with everyone at the school, and there are over 100 children there now. It's a girls' school, but a few young boys attend too instead of going to the boys' school. So we got ourselves introduced to them, and there were kids that we knew from before, and there were also new kids who we had never met before. And so we got ourselves introduced and played some ice-breaking games, and everyone really enjoyed themselves. Then we focused our efforts to a smaller group of girls who were older and more mature. So the idea was that we would work with these girls and they would pass on the things that they were learning to the younger children. The topics ranged from environmental stewardship to safety and, violence prevention. We had worked on workshops that were especially designed to address this issue. We were also discussing the importance of their education and talking to these girls about their dreams and aspirations and what they could do to help them reach these goals. We had a wonderful time working with these girls. They were very excited and ready to learn always. We also had lots of fun playing games with them. It was just a wonderful opportunity that we had to be able to connect with these girls after all of these years that we had spent away, because the last time we came to Pakistan was in 2015, and this year in 2019 we were just super excited to be able to work with them again, and it was a great time that we had, and we're really happy to be able to share their stories, and we'll get you introduced to them. आपका नाम क्या है?
तैबा फातिमा, फिजा, आनूर, मिरगुल, माविया, मलिया, नैला, ईशा बीबी, निशबा, आयशा रानी।
किस क्लास में हो?
3 4 क्लास 4 क्लास में 3 क्लास 3 2 क्लास 4 2 2 क्लास में।
सबसे अच्छी बात क्या लगती है स्कूल की?
पढ़ना चाहिए, बड़े होकर कोई जॉब मिल जाएगी। किसी ने टीचर बनना हो, किसी ने डॉक्टर बनना हो, किसी ने पायलट बनना हो, इस तरह की चीजें।
उसके लिए स्कूल जाना जरूरी है।
जी, पढ़ने के लिए।
पढ़ने के लिए क्या अच्छा लगता है पढ़ने को?
उर्दू।
बच्चों को स्कूल क्यों जाना चाहिए?
तालीम हासिल करने के लिए। स्कूल जाकर तालीम हासिल करना, बड़े होकर
फौज में भी जा सकते हैं।
पुलिस, टीचर, डॉक्टर, वकील। तालीम हासिल करना, दूसरों को भी सिखाना। मुझे इसलिए स्कूल जाना अच्छा लगता है क्योंकि हम बड़े होकर दूसरों को भी स्कूल जाना सिखा सकेंगे।
ठीक है। We spoke the other day about why you should study and why an education is good for you. We're really happy that all of you are studying, and we want you all to continue until you reach the highest level. You can become rich, but that can go away. Everything can be taken away from you, but your education is something that is in your own mind, so no one can take that away from you. This is something that makes you strong, meaning that when you are more educated, you become a stronger and more independent person. Now, it's not only important to continue your education, but also to give back to your community. One of the ways that you can do that is through planting trees and being good to your environment. You know what we're going to do today? Today we're going to take some plants that we have brought and we're going to plant them outside.
जी ला के दस इन्हें को लगा भो चल बेटा फड़ो एक नहीं आप दो अभी पहले दो फड़ो ऐसे दोनों हाथों से पकड़ लो दोनों हाथों ऊपर से पकड़ो ऐसे आपके पौधे का नाम क्या है? कर दसो
आयशा
आयशा ओए सोनी बच्ची मुझे तो पानी नहीं थोड़ी तो चाहिए पानी दे ऐसे कागज फाड़ लेते हैं चलो रखो अब सब बना दिया तो धने दिए बस ठीक है
अब आपने निकाला
चारों से
Whenever the two of us read stories about children being the victims of violence and abuse around the world, we were filled with grief and we felt that we couldn't do anything about it. In 2018, however, we decided to create a toolkit that teachers could use around the world to tell children about protecting themselves from different kinds of abuse. The first place where we implemented this toolkit was with the girls in our village in Pakistan. Here are a few parts from our workshops. Only you can decide who is allowed to touch you. This is a serious thing, kids. You never know. Some people may seem good, some people may seem bad, but no one is allowed to touch you, no matter what happens. Some people's minds are just weird or their intentions are bad. Let's say that you're a little girl and you're the guest, okay? You come into the house and I'm her mom, okay? So come into our house now. Hello, welcome, how are you? Come on, child, greet the guests. You're supposed to greet the guests. Okay, so now that you've met in front of the mom, that's okay. It's okay to meet guests in front of the mom. Now imagine the mom leaves, she goes into the kitchen, and now look what happens. Come here, child. Leave me alone, I don't know you. Scream. The mom still doesn't know what's happening. You haven't told her properly. Scream loudly. Okay, so now the mom heard you. What happened, child? So before we were talking about how a guest comes and tries to touch you, this is something that obviously seems very weird, but sometimes your relatives can also do something weird. Now, never think that you are protected even from your relatives. It's not that you should start getting scared of everyone, but you should just be careful. Yeah, be careful. If a relative, for example, your uncles, your all of these are relations of love because you love all of them. You love your cousins too, and they're like your brothers. However, if one of them tries to do something weird, for example, let's say you're a little girl and you're her cousin, okay? Come here. You're a boy cousin, and you're her uncle, okay? You come too. Come here. Yeah. So now you guys meet all the time, and let's say I'm the mom. I'm going, okay? If one of these two tries to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable or makes you think this is not right, or makes you think now that my mom is gone and this person is trying to do something weird, you have to scream then too. You have to make noise, kids, make noise. Yeah, the main point is noise, yeah. Because in this moment you don't know what else to do. It's not like everyone is evil or anything, but there are just some people who, and there's some moments when people do bad things because evil thoughts come into their hearts or whatever the reason may be. You just have to worry about yourself. If anyone tries to touch you or tries to hurt you or touch you in any way that you're not comfortable with, you're just gonna shout and you're gonna scream and you'll raise your voice and you can say this can't happen because you and your whole body belong to you only, and no one can do anything to it that you don't want them to. Because people are going to, if God forbid anything happens that's wrong, people are going to think, oh, she's just a little girl, I can do anything to her. But you are all really strong, you're educated, and you're going to go really, really far, and you're not going to become weak in front of anyone because you're all very strong and very resilient. Okay, so now everyone stand up and spread out. So now we're going to do something called power posing. Do you know what poses are? It's like when you smile or pose in front of the camera. So this is called power posing. We're gonna do this right now. So you feel really strong and you feel really good. You're gonna feel that freedom too once you do these. Okay, so now let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what is acceptable? For example, when a mom and a kid hug each other, what kind of touches are acceptable? When your mom hugs you, it's all right. What are some other examples of acceptable touches? When your dad or your sister touches you, the doctor too, yeah, the doctor, but only when your parents are with you. Even then, only you can decide who is allowed to touch you. What is unacceptable? When a stranger tries to touch you. Yes, when a stranger tries to touch you. And if your mom is not with you in the room, or if a stranger stops you inside your path, what are you gonna do? Scream. Yeah. We also talked about something else. What was that? Show us how you do it. So we're gonna do it like this. One more time. Being able to work through the Shine Toolkit with these girls was such an empowering experience. By the end of the workshops, the girls were opening up and becoming more confident, and as much as we were trying to teach the girls, there was so much we learned from them too. They even showed us some new games, and under their leadership, we played different versions of them, and it was amazing to grow our bond with these incredible young girls. Throughout our trip, we came back to our village, did workshops with the kids there, and learned more about their path to getting an education. Every single story was one that showed mothers breaking barriers and ensuring that their kids went to school, and also a lot of children who were dedicated and passionate about their education. When this journey began 10 years ago, we saw a school, some students who were ready to quit their education, and one teacher. Now, we still see a school, but with 100 students who are ambitious and don't plan on quitting school anytime soon, and 4 dedicated teachers. One story that stood out was that of a single mother, Safia, and her 2 daughters, Maryam and Rabia, who we have known since they were very young. They are currently the oldest girls in the school because they cannot afford to commute to the high school in their village, and the teachers are helping them continue their studies at their primary school. Their mother has had to work harder than most others in the village to get her girls to go to school, but that hasn't stopped her from making sure that happens. We spoke to Safia and her daughters to hear more of their story. पहले मुझे अपना नाम बताओ और अपनी क्लास बताओ, कब कौन सी क्लास?
मेरा नाम राबिया और मैं 9th क्लास में हूँ। मेरा नाम मरियम और मैं अभी 9th क्लास में हूँ।
अच्छा ठीक।
आपको पढ़ाई के बारे में सबसे अच्छी चीज़ क्या लगती है?
जब इंसान पढ़ता है ना तो उसमें कुछ शौर सा पैदा हो जाता है, वो अच्छे काम करता है। और अगर वो पढ़ेगा नहीं तो वो जहालत में रहेगा, इसलिए पढ़ाई हर इंसान के लिए ज़रूरी होती है, वो पढ़ाई करे।
तो थोड़ा सा हमें बताओ कि किस तरह आपको शौक किस तरह पैदा हो कि आपने पढ़ना है?
क्योंकि हमारी मम्मा का शौक़ है, इसलिए
अच्छा।
मम्मा का शौक़ है तभी हमें भी शौक़ पैदा होगा। ये गांव की लड़कियां हैं ना, जो बच्चे फेल हो जाते हैं, उनकी मामा उन्हें कहती है कि आप घर बैठ जाओ, वो सिलाई कढ़ाई कर लो, क्लीन वो तन लो। और हमारी मम्मा ने हमारे ज़हन में कभी कोई ऐसी बात नहीं डाली कि आप लोग घर बैठ जाओ, पर हमें हिम्मत देती है, हमारा कॉन्फिडेंस बरकरार हमारा मामा रखती है,
हौसला बढ़ाती है।
हमारी मामा दूसरी मामा जैसी नहीं है, जो
सबसे बेस्ट हमारी मम्मा।
और आपकी टीचर्स जो हैं वो आपको पहले तो आपके स्कूल में सिर्फ 1-2 टीचर्स होती थी
जी।
ना, अभी ज़्यादा आ गई हैं, तो ये तब्दीली जो है स्कूल में ये अच्छी कैसे लगी आपको, और ये किस तरह अभी स्कूल में बदले, कौन सी चीज़ें बदली हैं और ये क्यों अच्छी हैं स्कूल के लिए?
बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ें बदली है, जैसे बच्चों को कॉन्फिडेंस अब पैदा होने लगा है।
वो पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं, हमारा स्कूल फंक्शन होता है, बच्चे
पहले
पार्टिसिपेट
नहीं होता
करते
था, अब
हैं।
होता है।
अब बाद में बनना क्या चाहती हो?
मैं टीचर बनने का।
अच्छा, और आप?
मैंने अब तक सोचा नहीं, बस जो भी बनूँ, जिस पे भी बनूँ, बस एक अच्छा इंसान बनना चाहती हूँ।
हम यही कहना चाहेंगे कि सारे बच्चे मिलकर पढ़ें और एक अच्छा इंसान बने।
मैं कुड़ियां ਨੂੰ ਸਕੂਲ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਗਲਿਆ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਘਰ ਖਰਾਬ ਹੋਇਆ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਬੜੀ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਬਣ ਗਈ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਲਣ ਦੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਸਕੂਲ ਗਲਿਆ ਕਿ ਬੱਚੇ ਪੜ੍ਹਣ ਦੇ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਸਰਕਟ ਚਲਾ ਲੈ ਸਣ ਦੇ
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ
ਇਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਔਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਔਰ ਇਹ ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਖਾਸ ਰਿਵਾਜ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੜਾਇਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਇਤਨੀ ਅਹਿਮੀਅਤ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਘਰ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਮਤਲਬ ਵੱਧ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਬੇਟੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੜਾਇਆ ਇਨਸ਼ਾਅੱਲਾ ਮੇਰੀਆਂ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਲਾਇਕ ਵੀ ਹਨ ਔਰ ਪੜ੍ਹਨਾ ਵੀ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਵੀ ਦਿਲ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਦਿਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੜ੍ਹੀਏ ਔਰ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਾਲੇ ਬੜੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਪਰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਪਰਵਾਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੇਰੀਆਂ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਔਰ ਲਾਇਕ ਵੀ ਹੋਣ ਪੜ੍ਹਨ ਵੀ ਤੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਕੋਈ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਵਕਤ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਮੁਸਤਕਬਲ ਬਣਾ ਲੈਣ
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਮਰੀਮ ਰਾਬੀਆ ਕਦੀ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲਾਤ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਸਕੂਲ ਜਾਣ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਔਰ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲਾਤ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲਾਤ ਇਹ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਇੰਝ ਦੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਹੀ ਉਹ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਔਰ ਜਾਣ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਹਿੰਮਤ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੀਆਂ ਪਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਬੜੀ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਆਸ-ਪਾਸ ਨਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੀਆਂ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਇਕੱਲੀਆਂ ਹੀ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਿੰਮਤ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਕੱਲੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਜਾਵੀਏ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਨਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਫਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰੇ ਨਾ ਕਰੇ ਤੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਵੀ ਦਿਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਜਾਣ
ਪਿੰਡ 'ਚ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਰਿਵਾਜ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਛੋਟੀ ਉਮਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਟੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਸ਼ਾਦੀ ਕਰਵਾ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੀ ਖਿਆਲ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਮਾਮਲੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਾਦੀ ਜਲਦੀ ਕਰਵਾ ਦੇਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹਨ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ
ਮੇਰਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹਨ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਉਹ ਪੜ੍ਹਨ ਆਪਣੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਨੌਕਰੀ ਕਰਨ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਦਿਲ ਹੋਵੇ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਰਾਮ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ਾਦੀ ਕਰਾਂ ਕਿ ਮੇਰਾ ਕੋਈ ਮਸਲਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਜਲਦੀ ਸ਼ਾਦੀ ਕਰਾਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਸੰਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੱਲ
ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਰ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਜਾਂ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਾ ਹੈ ਪਹਿਲੇ
ਨਹੀਂ ਇਹ ਮੇਰੀਆਂ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਪਹਿਲੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੀਆਂ ਪਈਆਂ ਨੇ
ਅੱਛਾ ਮਾਸ਼ਾਅੱਲਾ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਲੋਕ ਗਾਉਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਿਲ ਕਰੇ ਕਿ ਬਾਕੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਸੋਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਕਨ ਹੋਏ ਕਿ ਬਾਕੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਸਮਝਣ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸੋਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੇਖੋ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਇੱਕ ਮਿਸਾਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਉਂਦੀ ਪਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਓ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਮੁਸਤਕਬਲ ਸੋਚੋ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਬਿਹਤਰ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ
Another place where we spent a lot of our time during our trip was Lahore. This city has been around for centuries, and many of the iconic pieces of architecture that are still around today, like the Badshah Mosque, were built in the Mughal times. The landscapes and culture can change so quickly in Pakistan. When you look at this diverse and busy place, it's kind of hard to believe that it's only about an hour away from our quiet, sparsely populated village. Lahore is rich with culture, history, and is the second most populated city in all of Pakistan. We had a wonderful time exploring all the incredible places in the city, visiting bazaars, and trying out local food. We also interviewed several individuals from various industries during our time in this city regarding their thoughts on girls' education. In a report titled "Shall I Feed My Daughter or Educate Her?" released in 2018, Human Rights Watch explains that 32% of primary school girls in Pakistan are out of school, compared to 21% of boys. By the time students reach grade 6, 49% of boys are out of school, compared to 59% of girls. Furthermore, only 13% of girls remain in school by 9th grade. To learn more about this, we conducted our first interview with Ali Zafar, who is a Pakistani singer, songwriter, model, actor, producer, and painter. He has done a lot of work for different social causes, like the Shaukat Khanum Memorial Cancer Hospital, and supported different girls' education initiatives through the Ali Zafar Foundation. We spoke to him about how he's tackling the issue of girls' education. What inspired you to take action for girls' education? Was it a specific moment, an incident that you saw, or just an accumulation of different things?
It came from my childhood because I used to see my mother go to her university, the Punjab University. She was a librarian first, and she was so persistent in her education and studies, and my father was so supportive of it. That really set an example for me. And I remember watching her get out and travel all the way, because we didn't have a car or a bike or anything. So she used to travel in public transports, which are they're filled with like wagons and vans. So if you've ever traveled in them, I mean, men are on top of each other, and there's space for two women in the front seat. And so she's gone through that entire drill, and I've seen her become Pakistan's first woman who's a postdoc scholar in library sciences. So that's what really, I think, struck to me, that we in our society need to empower our women and their education, because one woman, when she is educated and enlightened, she is now educating the whole family, right? A set of children, and the impact is a lot more than a man.
Yeah.
And that is why I feel that a woman is such a strong institution in herself, that she can make such a big difference in society.
So, as a philanthropist and humanitarian, you have supported many different causes, including girls' education. So, as you worked for this cause, what were some of the major barriers you saw that girls or children in general faced when going to school?
I think with girls over here, primarily, there's a mindset that's indoctrinated, which is that girls are eventually going to get married one day, have babies, and that is their real job and work that's going to be. Now, I think that's a beautiful thing, to get married and have children and have a family and to nurture and raise children. But women and girls, they're a lot more than that. And the potential is a lot more than that. And they're not just there or born to serve men. They have their own dreams and wishes, and they should be allowed to dream as men do. They should be allowed to choose for themselves as men do. They should be allowed to have the lives that they want for themselves. Whatever influences God has granted me with over people with my voice, I think it's important to raise that voice, that we as men in general need to be even more compassionate towards women and caring.
Can you please tell us a bit about your current girls' education projects?
Yes, we are at the moment, we are rehabilitating the sex workers in the in area in Lahore. So we are rehabilitating them and their children and their families and educating them and inspiring them to educate their children so that they don't go in the same line of work. And there's a school called Learning Hub that we are supporting, and we plan to make more learning hubs where not just those women, but women and people and children who come from a background where and that includes transgenders and other people who are mostly rejected and dejected by the society, and they're probably ashamed and embarrassed of their existence sometimes, but they're also human beings. So I think we really need to take care of them also.
One of the most beautiful places in all of Lahore is the interior of the city. We remember visiting the Lahore Fort, the Badshai Mosque, and other iconic places ever since we were children. And yet, beyond the tall, gorgeous walls of this ancient city, there was a social issue that we had never been aware of. There is a red light district nearby, and the children who lived there were being neglected by the rest of society. Many of them did not have access to an education. Now, we always knew that access to an education is a major issue in Pakistan, but because there are different regions with different issues, we did not know all of the reasons for this. Being neglected was one of the reasons why many of the children in this particular area of interior Lahore did not go to school. However, in March 2018, a community uplifting initiative was launched to educate these children. This was called the Learning Hub, and the school that was started by this project is the same school that the Ali Zafar Foundation is one of the sponsors for. The three founding partners for this project were Akhuwat, the Punjab AIDS Control Program, and the Walled City Authority. We sat down with Zarqa Tahir, the founder of the Learning Hub, and others like it to learn more.
Now, what happens is that there are multiple reasons why these children, girls and boys, don't go to school. One of them is just the neglect, because no one feels that it's important to really educate them. Other reason is that most of them have a lifestyle where the families, they'll stay up during the night. So most of our schools, the public schools, do have morning. A few of them have started afternoon shifts, but most of them are in the morning.
Yeah.
So there's no way that these women are going to send their children to school at 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning. That is another reason. One of the other reasons was that many of the schools ask for birth documents, and these children do not have birth documents. The first place we went to was the Shahi Mohalla, which is the red light area. It's since the Mughal times. It's been there, but as you know, with the passing of time, the traditional culture of the Shahi Mohalla died down, and it was replaced by the system of brothels and even the trafficking of girls, and it was no longer where it was only a dancing profession. It moved into prostitution. And the differentiation between a dancer and a prostitute was no longer there. Also, what happened was that because of modern technology, where you have an entire system, you don't need the traditional tabla wala, you don't need all those people. So the whole culture and everything died down. And then there were regimes who did a crackdown on prostitution without giving them an alternate lifestyle. So both these families, the musicians' families and the families of the prostitutes, they did not know what to do except move totally into prostitution, or just live below poverty line, just scrap out a living. Many of these families then moved to the place that we are at. It's called Bagh Munshi Lata, and it's right opposite Taksali, opposite the traditional Shahi Mohalla. And this was also called, that is called the Hira Mandi, and this began to be called as the mini Hira Mandi. It does not take just a school. It takes a community to raise a child. So we stopped working just for the children and their education. We moved into the community as a whole. A school can do just that much. It's not just the parents, it's the teachers, it's the community members, it's the government. We need a collaboration of everyone because the problem is huge. So what we did was that we opened up a learning hub, which was education. Seeing that that was not enough, we started with a craft hub, started teaching them a skill. Again, just having them get an education is not enough. We need to teach them a skill. This is basically a totally community uplift project where the community takes ownership. We interfere to the minimum possible level. We ask for their advice for everything at all because it's their children, it's their people around them. So they said that stitching is what they wanted. We started with stitching. Then they thought they wanted cooking was also a strong point. So we've started a community kitchen here. It's being done up. So what happens now is that these kids from this entire community, which is of dancers, musicians, and all the street children as well, because it is not just families and children of dancers and musicians who are at risk, but the other kids who are going around, they are at risk too. So when people ask me, "What do you do here? What are you achieving?" Because there's so many kids out there, I tell them, right now we're giving them 6 hours of childhood per day, 6 days a week. That is what we're doing. We're creating memories. If I tell you to close your eyes and think of your best memories, even if I ask you, all of you, you'll think of things where you did as a child. So they come up with such horrible memories. What we say is that we cannot erase them. All of them, we can work towards them because we have a psychological program, a social program as well. But what we can do is that we can pile them up with so many good memories that the human brain will recall just the happy incidents that they have had. The other thing about the curriculum that makes it special is that with the help of some psychologists and a couple of psychiatrists from a Fountain House, they have developed a 5-year plan, which on the surface of it may just be random activities, but every activity has a purpose. And the purpose is to actually make them adjust as humans, as citizens in the world, because this is not a normal world with normal relationships. This is a strange world with surreal relationships, and so they are going to live with the taboo, many of them. So that they have to overcome it. They have to adjust in the society. The society has to adjust to them. So that is a very important part of our curriculum, which is a 5-year plan, complete with intervention strategies. That is being monitored by psychologists. The whole street is going to have a new look, and it is going to be a street that is safe for children. There was a parent. He said, "I can't recognize my own children." This just started last March. It's been a year.
Wow.
And these children were on the street using very abusive language and not really caring for anything. You will see them now. And even I can't believe the change. When the kids come up and speak, they're polite, they pick up litter, they have changed overnight. It takes so much to change an adult human being. It takes so little to change these kids. If on the negative side, someone can turn a little mind into blowing up, why can't all of us together turn these little minds into being good humanitarians? The concentration is so much on prostitution that we forget what I called the red light area's collateral damage, and that is the children. That is where our concentration should be. These two women left prostitution only because of one reason. They did not want the same life for their children. Their children was the single most, not lectures, not awareness drives, but their children was the most motivating force. When they saw that there was an opportunity for their girls to study and not be involved in any other activity, they went for it. There's a tailor out there, and that tailor said that I have stitched clothes for dance performances of these women, and today I stitched their kids' uniforms. That's a tremendous thing to achieve. All in all, this is just a place where you're supposed to be happy.
Yeah.
Forget about everything else.
निवाल बोलती है दूसरे के ये क्या होता है, शोल्डर क्या होता है,
कंधा
कंधे कंधे को टच रही ज़्यादा। निवाल कहती है जंप करो, निवाल कहती है दोबारा जंप करो, दोबारा जंप करो। फिर सारे आउट हो गए। While a lot of children are out of school in Pakistan, there are also those who do get to go to school, but their performance in school is negatively impacted due to their families. Specifically, the addiction of a parent to drugs has a negative impact on a child's mental health, their well-being, and in turn, their performance in school. To find out more about this issue and how it can affect children, we interviewed Dr. Sadakat Ali, who is a Pakistani addiction psychiatrist, motivational speaker, author, and TV celebrity. He was one of the first people to start addiction counseling and drug rehab in Pakistan. For this reason, he has a very unique perspective in the healthcare industry and the impact of drugs within families in Pakistan. He's also the founder of Willing Ways, which is an addiction treatment center which provides psychiatric and rehabilitation services to people. So are there specific projects that Willing Ways is running that deals with people of like different classes and specifically the impoverished population, whether that be younger people or even older, but specifically for impoverished people?
We have awareness project by the name of Willing Ways again. It is live streaming that happens daily on Facebook, and our professionals create awareness in all sectors of the society. Mostly we talk about preventive measures as to how can the family members or the parents take care of the children in a fashion so that they are not inclined to use drugs to begin with.
We have always considered that the education of girls is a cause that is linked with the development and economic growth of countries. So why do you believe that educating girls will improve Pakistan in the future?
Empowerment of women in the right sense is the solution to all of this. Education is good, it can help women get good jobs, but the real thing is motivating women and educating men who have a habit of creating hurdles in the way of women, mostly fathers, brothers, and husband too. And when women work, it is made difficult for them to do so.
So at Willing Ways, you recognize that an individual's addiction can negatively impact the whole family. And your work supports families who are suffering with family members who have addiction problems. So can you tell us about the impact specifically that like a parent's addiction can have on children and their work at school or their performance at school?
Definitely, if even one of the parents is addicted to alcohol or drugs, the children are badly affected by that. They become codependent. They become snubbed in their life. They hush up. They do not open up to other people, and they have a kind of suffocating, lonely life. So it is very important that when somebody is suffering from alcoholism or drug addiction in the family, children are to be taken care of in that they cannot be put aside. They have to be involved in the counseling process to begin with. So they know that it is a disease and it is not a defect of character. So they are open up to the other peers in the school. They open up with the friends. They invite their friends to their family because they stop inviting their friends when there is an addicted family member because they feel shame about it.
In between filming our documentary, conducting interviews, and spending time with the girls in our village, we had an opportunity to attend various youth conferences and summits where we addressed audiences of 300 to 4,000 youth. Every time we saw young people with the passion to create change in their country, and many who were already doing so.
That Pakistan is a country that needs improvement, but there's a lot of people like yourselves who are working to improve Pakistan as well.
As activists and journalists, it is always our goal to show the subjects of our work in the most authentic way possible. This documentary is meant to show our Pakistan, one with so much history and culture, and one which can be improved greatly through education, and especially girls' education. To gain a perspective on the status of girls' education in rural areas, including the barriers they face, and find out what kind of work is being done to uplift them, we interviewed Ali Tareen. He is a Pakistani businessman, politician, and social entrepreneur. He helps run the Tareen Education Foundation, which has brought significant changes to the education system of the South Punjab region and given more girls opportunities to go to school.
We adopted all the government schools around our area, so there were 86, and we adopted all of them. Because we can't just make one or two good schools, you either do it in all the schools or none of the schools. So we adopted all of the schools. And that's when we started realizing the need and demand for high quality education. So we made a school for about 600 kids, and it was a boys' school, and we called it Fairs and Fairs Boys' School. When we were building it, and when we were just about to start and we were getting enrollments, there was a delegation of about 50 parents. These are hardcore villagers, big twirly mustaches, dhotis, big puggies. And they come to the office and we are now petrified. We're like, what have we done wrong? Obviously, very sensitive situation with schools and kids in the area. They're very, very angry. And they say, we are not going to leave this office until you give our girls admission into this school. Like, guys, this is a boys' school. There's a huge brass letter that says Fairs Boys' School. So how can we make it a co-ed school? Because we don't know, we don't care if it's co-ed school or not, but how can our sons go and our daughters not go to this school? And then I asked them, why aren't your daughters currently in school? And the guy looks at me, he goes, because the current school that was there's one shady headmaster who I don't trust. Why would I send my daughter every day to him? I said, so it's just the lack of female teachers, which is the issue, not because you don't want to educate them. He's looking at me like I'm, a moron. And I felt like one at the time. Because I assume, like everyone in Pakistan assumes, especially in cities, that people in the villages don't want to educate their daughters, and that's why most of the out-of-school children are girls. And it's not that. Because of their pressure, we were bullied by the local community to make our school a co-ed school, which people think would be crazy in villages. So we had to enroll 300 girls into that school immediately.
What were some of the other barriers you saw that girls face when going to school?
So one big one was around hygiene. When girls get to a certain age, and obviously the bodies are going through changes, this is not something that their parents or the community talks about. They're not educated about it themselves. So what happens is, as soon as they start having their first period, they stop going to school. Because they don't want to be in a situation where they need to go to the washroom and they don't have the facilities, because again, there's generally no separate bathroom for girls in these schools, especially government schools. And that is one of the main reasons girls drop out. Because they stop going for a few months and they stop going. So then we started a program where a couple of years before, our female teachers start having sessions with all the girls in all of our schools. This is going to happen, this is totally normal, this is totally natural, your body will go through changes. These are the best practices, don't use dirty rags, use this, use that. And it's had a really good impact. So we've reduced the number of dropouts that have happened during that time, and for that reason.
What do you hope that the children you are supporting through your work will learn when they go to school?
My main goal is to make them as confident as possible and to dream as big as possible. Generally in Pakistan, you see, especially with girls, that they know from day one, the highlight of my life is when I get married. And if I want to work after I get married, I can be a nurse or I can be a school teacher. Generally in South Punjab, these are the two, or you can be a seamstress. These are the three accepted professions. So we do a lot of stuff where we get girls from universities all over Pakistan, like Blums in Lahore, and they go there and they give presentations on alternative career paths. So someone was in the army, and she went to give a presentation. We got some girls who are professional cricketers. They went to give a presentation. And that's when girls realize that there's so much more in the world that I can do than what my aunts and cousins and neighbors do. We need our women to be with us side by side in the effort to make Pakistan a more developed country. We cannot do it without them. We cannot do it. Think that once we do well, then we'll think about how we can help our girls. It has to be a collective effort, and the only way is if they're right next to us side by side, not below us slightly, right next to us, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, pushing Pakistan forward.
Access to education is a problem which has two main parts. Getting children access to school is obviously one of them, and it is important to ensure that children are going to school, making use of their resources in their own communities, and progressing into different fields of work following that education. The second part of this issue is ensuring that the children are reaping the maximum benefits of that education and ensuring that it is of high quality. The current system has a curriculum in government schools without actual work being put in to update the education with that of the rest of the world. That is why educational reform is needed. We found out about a new solution to the quality education problem which sticks to Pakistan's roots. It is the inclusion of the ideology and principles of Pakistan's founding fathers in schools. We spoke about potential curriculum changes and the status of education currently with Mia Yusuf Salahuddin. He is a Pakistani socialite, philanthropist, and ex-politician from Lahore. He is the grandson of one of Pakistan's founding fathers, Allama Iqbal, and currently does a lot of work to revive the culture and promote the talent of Pakistan through various events and television programs. What are some key ideas of Allama Iqbal that Pakistani youth can adopt in their lives so that they can have a positive impact on the country?
Well, basically, obviously, what does Iqbal teach you? Iqbal teaches you to be grow up into a human being with good values, okay? And Iqbal believes in the individual. If you have an individual who is, a person to be looked up to, okay, of course, his family will be like him. Then the family changes into community, okay. So basically, I think for us is to teach our children good values and to create that society.
So what kind of impact do you think can be had if we educate Pakistani girls?
Of course, I think that, for instance, like me, my daughter was, went to the same school as my boys. Mm-hmm. She went to the same school. She went to educate herself in America. Okay. In fact, she did a master's. The boys only did their bachelor's. Okay. So I think it's very, very important, and this was also the vision of our founding fathers, that girls, they are very much equal to men. And today, when we see, when we look around, we find that girls, mashallah, are far more intelligent and getting far better grades than the boys.
Do you believe that the ideas and values on which Pakistan was built by leaders like Quaid-e-Azam and Allama Iqbal still exist today? And if not, how can we revive them?
Well, we need to revive it. I mean, we need to really revive it. We need to, first of all, what we need to do is we have to very deeply look into our syllabus. Okay? Mm-hmm. And we must understand that what we are going to teach our children. Yeah. Because havoc has been played. Everybody who came decided to write their own history. Mm-hmm. And this is very sad. It normally doesn't happen in other countries. Yeah. And every political leader which came, they misused history and they took it to their advantage. Yeah. So we need to really see that what needs to be taught. I think one of the most important books that need to be taught is the Reconstruction of the Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam by Iqbal. And I feel very strongly that every graduate in this country, by the time he or she graduates, definitely this book should be somewhere in the syllabus. Cool.
That's okay. मैंने आपको
हमारा दिल है कि हम कोई ऐसी चीज़ छोड़ के जाएं इधर कि हमारी निशानी रहे आपके साथ और आप हमें बाद में भी याद करो जब भी हम वापस तो आएंगे लेकिन पता नहीं कितने सालों के बाद है ना। तो हमने ये ब्रेसलेट्स हैं, ये इनके इस डब्बे के अंदर रंग बिरंगे मोती भी हैं, तो धागे भी हैं रंग बिरंगे। आप सारों को ना मौका मिलेगा कि आप एक ब्रेसलेट बनाओ और आप अपने साथ रखो।
मैंने सुना
लाली ज़्यादा बोलती है। वैसे मैं मानो एंड पे सबको मिलते भी हैं।
When thinking about how school can change someone's life, we picture the lessons one learns, but also the changes that school can bring to a person as a whole. Confidence and the ability to dream bigger are both examples of positive changes that can come from quality education. However, to ensure that schools are developing their students into confident, well-rounded citizens, the addition of physical activity and sports is necessary. In 2013, the Foundation for Global Sports Development released an article titled Benefits of School-Based Sports. It states that girls who compete in sports get better grades, graduate at higher rates, and have more confidence. To find out about sports in Pakistani schools and the experience of a professional athlete when studying in the Pakistani school system, we spoke with Narina Shams. She is a Pakistani sports person who has been a cyclist, a cricketer, and currently is a squash player. She has addressed the UN Commission on the Status of Women in 2017 on women's economic empowerment and raises awareness about social issues on social media.
What are the challenges that you think, the biggest challenges girls are facing, and what prevents them from going to school? Like barriers to their education, basically.
To be honest, I feel like the accessibility to school and especially the culture that has been mixed up with religion is something that is very, very wrong in our country. I mean, we have seen Islam in so many other countries progressing so well, just like Malaysia. The culture over here is different. So it's like, I mean, in the many parts of Pakistan, the culture is that women cannot go to school. But this is not in Islam. I mean, in Islam, education is for both the genders, or all the genders. But culture over here, so I mean, I believe that the culture that has been diverted or inherited by the people is wrong. And I mean, the teachings, I believe is, I mean, that's one of the biggest obstacle. People don't have vision. And they don't have, I mean, the kind of, you can say, education themselves, that how education can change their life. They have mixed up westernization and modernization. Which is like, they think that their culture will be killed or something like that. So this is the kind of fear that is a very big obstacle, not only for girls, there are guys as well. They cannot go to school. So, yes.
When did you first realize that lack of access to an education was like a major issue in Pakistan? Was it when you were going to school? When was it?
Yeah, so I mean, my basic education was very good just because of my father. But when my father died and there was a war going on in there in Sabad, I realized when my schools were closed and I had to go to a government school for a while. And then I got to know the difference between the level of education that I was getting, and then when I went to Peshawar from there, and then I could see the huge difference between the two schools and the kind of education that was given. So I mean, I was privileged enough, I would say. I went to Peshawar, but many of my family members, girls, and all the guys and many girls from my village, I actually felt that what I have been given right now, they're not that privileged to get that. So yeah, the accessibility.
You're a squash player and an athlete yourself, but I just want you to touch on sports in school. So giving those opportunities for girls to become athletes and like get inspired to do those types of things in school, is that there in government schools, for example?
First of all, I mean, there's a bit of it. And to be honest, not only in government school, the ratio of becoming an athlete, a professional athlete in Pakistan, even if you're a privileged kid or something, it's 1:1,000.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I would say, I'm not saying this thing just bragging about it, that I'm a professional athlete and stuff like that, but I would say this thing, out of the 1,000 seniors or juniors I have had, I'm the only professional athlete that my city or my region has seen, and that's a very big risk. So it's not only the government school which doesn't have this kind of facility for girls or something, or for boys as well, it's the privileged schools as well.
The concept of Pakistan being destined to soar is based off of the idea that Pakistan will improve in the future, and the girls in our village are representative of all girls in Pakistan who, when they're educated, will help it prosper and soar as a nation. So we asked some of our interview subjects what their vision for the future of Pakistan looks like. Here's what they said.
I felt really happy meeting you guys, and I'm feeling happy talking and listening to you guys even more than I'm listening to myself, because I think that the way that you guys are driven, you've probably come all the way from Canada, and you're on a mission, right? And see the change that you guys make. Similarly, I would love to see a lot more girls and women doing practical things in a positive manner to bring about that change.
I came to realize that men and women are equal to each other. Although they are different in certain ways, but they are equal in respect, they are equal in rights. So that is when I started my career, there was a lot of change in my mind, and I created opportunities for girls to work in my organization, which were very good opportunities, because we designed it very well that the women in Pakistan could work in our organizations with confidence and with progress in mind, without any fear against men. So we designed a program which came out to be very successful in 10-15 years. We had to work very hard because this society is such. Men have a mentality to dominate women at home and in the society as well. I am a strong believer that women should be given equal opportunities in the family and in the society. It is the duty of every father to make sure not to discriminate between boys and girls. And that gives you a lot more pleasure than if you think that boys are only assets and girls are just a supportive role.
What you need to do right now, immediately, is remove this sense of inferiority between the two classes. If there's someone in a poor village in South Punjab or a rural scene, anywhere where it's an underdeveloped region, that person should not think they are inferior to the well-educated person in the main city. They should think, if I have that education and I will get that, if I get something of that sort, if I put my extra effort, I can do anything. We need to have equality in terms of our mindset, and that's what we need to push immediately. In every society, in every culture, every province, every city, every village, that everyone is the same. There's no difference between us. Some people have better access to education, some people have easier opportunities. That's it.
Look, we are an amazing country. We have so many natural resources in this country. We have an amazing, population which is almost how many percent? I think over 60% is a youth. We just need proper leadership. Unfortunately, our youth has never been, there's been nobody to guide them, and there's been nobody to lead them. Okay, and whatever these children have achieved, it is on their own. Okay, so I think if we have an environment in this country where we actually depend on our youth, okay, I think that we will go places.
Pakistan is a developing country with hundreds of years of history and more than 70 years of independence. In this time, there have been incredible leaders with great dreams about the future of the country, including Allama Iqbal and Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Muhammad Ali Jinnah once said, "With faith, discipline, and selfless devotion to duty, there is nothing worthwhile that you cannot achieve." Jinnah's words are exemplified in the youth of Pakistan, who are working hard to ensure that the future of the country will be bright. We traveled to several different parts of the country, from South Punjab to Kashmir. Our journey has taught us a lot. We've met many people, seen incredible places, and heard fascinating stories. The problem is huge and requires considerable effort before being resolved. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's that we can't change everything, but that shouldn't stop us from doing something to incite some sort of change. We saw examples of people doing their something, from everyone contributing to the Learning Hub, to the celebrities we interviewed, to Safia, who was sending her daughters to school against all odds, and every little girl in Pakistan studying hard in school. With the collective force of the actions everyone is taking, girls, and all children in fact, are destined to soar. Let the story serve as an example to all, to not let the magnitude of issues prevent you from doing your part. Indeed, we can't change everything, but that shouldn't stop us from doing something.
Hello. Hi everyone. Oh, Hi everyone. My name is Andrea Jacob. I will be moderating today's discussion. I'm so excited to be here. I am a second year health sciences student at McMaster University. And before we begin, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm super passionate about gender equality and specifically girls' education. I serve as the co-director for gender equality for the World with MNR, and I also am the co-founder and co-president of Girl Up McMaster. So welcome to our discussion with the filmmakers of the incredible documentary we just watched, Maryam and Nivaal. They are twin activists, journalists, filmmakers, and the co-founders of their incredible nonprofit, The World with MNR. So we're gonna dive into questions when you both are ready.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We're really excited to be here.
So let's begin. Number one, how did you both begin your activism journey?
So our activism journey actually began in our home country of Pakistan. We're originally from Pakistan, but grew up here in Canada. And when we were around 8 years old, we visited our village and a school in our village where our grandmother had actually donated the land to have a girls' school built. And we met the girls and we learned more about their dreams and aspirations and immediately became friends. And it was amazing to be able to see and meet both of them or all of them. But we learned that some of them were actually going to quit school when they reached grade 5 because they would have to work to support their families. And this shocked us and we resolved to fix the issue. And so over the next 5 years at first, we went every time on family trips. We worked with the girls, held workshops, did trainings, and inspired the girls to continue their education. So it was a journey that started when we were just 8 years old, as Maryam mentioned, and it has been going on for more than 10 years now. And it has been amazing just seeing the girls actually go on to pursue their education in high school as well. And we're just so honored to be a part of that journey. I think just recognizing that, girls are so passionate about their futures, but they're not necessarily given the opportunities to do so. And there's different issues that girls face in different communities. And so just that was what started our activism journey. And not only did we do work in Pakistan, but we also recognize that there's lots of issues here in Canada that we can work on locally when we're here as well. And so we just, tried to take action in a variety of ways in different communities. And that's really how it started.
That's incredible. Our next question, why is girls' education such an important issue, especially during this time?
Yeah, so amid COVID-19 especially, we're finding that inequalities are being exacerbated and worsened, even from before the pandemic, and the status of gender equality is worse than it was before, and so we're losing progress. And the one way to combat that is if we make sure that girls are educated, because when girls are educated, they're able to spread that to their communities, they're able to make sure that they use their knowledge to combat climate change or other issues, because they're very community oriented and they'll be able to pass that on to their children if they choose to have them. And so it's a very the impact is much more than just one girl if one girl is educated. And so we find that amid this time, it's really important to be investing in education and technology access and all the tools that these girls will need to be able to succeed in education. Yeah, and particularly in our own community, in our village in Pakistan, what we're seeing is that when girls are educated, they're able to really inspire other people to pursue their dreams as well. Not just when they're older, I guess, or if they have children of their own, but also just their siblings and other girls in the community. They can really act as leaders. And that's what we've been seeing. So when we started doing our work, a lot of those girls are older now, going on to high school, and they're encouraging other girls in the village to pursue their education too. So just the number of children in that school, so as we were showing in the documentary, has gone up, and there's 100 children now. And while during COVID-19 they're learning from home or remotely, it's still amazing to see that a lot of them have been inspired to pursue their education. And so especially right now, as we recover and build back better from the pandemic, we need to encourage education more than ever.
Amazing. And on the topic of your incredible documentary, which was so moving, can you tell us a bit more about the premise of the film?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, like at the beginning of our activism journey, we did it for around 5 years, went back to Pakistan in 2015, and we were able to learn that some of those girls actually went on to high school. So it was really, really exciting for us, and that inspired our work here in Canada as well. And then we weren't able to go back to Pakistan again until 2019 when we made this film. And so we knew that we wanted to cover the stories of those girls and make sure that we were doing more work in person. And so we finished high school a semester early. We went back to Pakistan and we filmed for around 2 months. And so we held workshops, and then we also wanted to cover in the documentary just the status of girls' education and gender equality in general in the country, covering the challenges and then also what individuals are doing to help combat this issue or make things better. What we found was that there's not only people, in our own community, in our village, but also people all around the country that are doing such amazing work. And we were so honored to be able to feature their stories and see whatever they're doing in their own communities and just see the diversity again, like even within one country, in different parts of like Pakistan, there's so many different issues that girls face, as was discussed in the film as well. And there's different reasons that, prevent them from going to school or pursuing their education. And addressing them requires local community-based efforts and grassroots efforts as well. And we really wanted to highlight that as part of the film. And also, our film was meant to give hope, because we know that a lot of the times, the Pakistan that we see in the media, especially in countries that are not necessarily, or people that are not necessarily Pakistani themselves or haven't necessarily spent the same amount of time as we have, there's a certain look that they give to the country, and it's not necessarily like entirely reflective of what's going on all the time. And the focus is too much on like the negatives and like all of the, I guess, the challenges that the country faces. And of course there are challenges, but there's also such amazing work that's being done to combat those challenges. And we really wanted that to be the focus, because we believe that that really instills hope in people and allows them to want to get involved with these initiatives and really make a difference themselves too. And that was really important for us in the film.
Oh, so incredible. So what inspired you both to make this film?
Yeah, I think our passion for storytelling, as much as our activism, we find that when people connect with stories, they're able to look at challenges and go beyond just statistics, and which is unfortunate, right? Because like when you hear about like millions of girls that are out of school, like eventually people start thinking that these challenges are too big for us to resolve, and they stop connecting with these numbers as much. And so that's why you need stories of the actual people being impacted, so that individuals are able to recognize the challenges and then also want to do something about the issues as well. Yeah, and I think that goes back to when we started our nonprofit, The World of Them in Art, and it was initially just a media platform, and we started it again in 2015. That was such a big year for us in terms of the work that we did. But I think it was, we went to Pakistan, and when we came back, our teachers nominated us for the Governor General's Caring Canadian Award, and it was such an honor that we received the award. And during that time, a lot of young people were asking us that, got to know about our story, like, how can we get involved? And that's why we started using social media as, a tool to really raise awareness about the issues that are going on. And, it started 5 years ago, but up until this point, we've done so many different types of, I guess, mediums and doing storytelling that really, I guess, tells people not only about the problems that exist, but also how they can help. And this documentary was just an extension of that, and just that desire that we had to use storytelling as a tool to really tell people about the ways that they can get involved and make a difference too.
You both are so incredible. What was your favorite part of the filmmaking process?
I think the best part was that we were going on a girl-powered road trip around the country as we were filming. And so we didn't mention this inside the documentary, and not many people would have noticed this, but we, when we were filming, we had our mom, our cousin, and our aunt with us, and the 5 of us girls, like, or women, we were going around the country whenever we had interviews to do, when we were looking at different projects, when we were trying to film at different locations throughout. We were just driving around ourselves and trying to explore and discover and figure these things out. And we didn't have like a team of like, men around us for like protection or anything like that. Because sometimes people really have that misconception that, although like perhaps it could be dangerous sometimes, and there's been incidents and stuff, like we don't find that in our journey, which we've been so grateful for. But this also demonstrates how, like, there is a space for women in storytelling in Pakistan, and it's a possibility. If that's what you want, if you want to raise your voice and amplify it through storytelling as a medium, go for it. And we were so like amazed at the experience of like just going around, the freedom you have, right? Like you can just go around whatever the location is, you can go at your own pace and just have a lot of fun along the way. And so that was our favorite part of the filmmaking process.
You both made such an incredible film. So what tips do you have for aspiring filmmakers?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest tips that we have is, look at the stories that you know and you're really familiar with, because then you bring yourself into the project and you bring a perspective that someone coming from the outside in won't necessarily be able to see. And that's why we started with, our first feature-length documentary film, which was this movie. We started it in our community that we had been working in like for so many years, and we really wanted to be able to tell those stories that we had gotten to know of for such a long time. And I guess in that process, like the people that you're filming, whether it's like, little children or, their parents, they're more comfortable with you as well. And they understand that, they can trust you with their stories. And you've built that trust over so many years. And I think that's a really special element of filmmaking, when you can do that and when you can make people comfortable on camera or feel that, there's someone that they can trust their stories with. I think that was something that we really recommend other filmmakers do as well. Find places in your own community that you've been working in, or like that you're really familiar with, because then those individuals will want to share their stories with you as well. And obviously we had a chance to go to other communities as well and, explore places that we had not been to before. But, I think that it's amazing to start local and in your own communities. And then once you have done a project that's that you're really proud of, then you can move on to other places as well. And it's just really incredible what you can do. So believe in yourself as well throughout this process, because we didn't necessarily have like all the fancy tools and equipment that filmmakers have these days, or that a big crew would have. We were a smaller crew, but we had a lot of passion for this project. And once you have passion, you can really pursue anything that you would like.
Amazing. I'm sure we have so many activists in our audience as well today. So what advice do you have for our aspiring activists?
I think the best advice that we have is to combine your activism with your passions and then just like go from there. So a formula that we like to share when we're talking about activism is talent plus cause equals change. And so for us, just an example of how we applied this in our activism, we're really passionate about storytelling, and we like to think that we're talented at filmmaking. So that's our talent. And then the cause that we're really passionate about, or one of them, is girls' education. And so we combine those two to make this documentary about girls' education, and then we screened it all over the world. Now it's virtual, and sparked conversation around like how we can take action, what the status of girls' education is in Pakistan. And so we created change in that way. And I think that as activists, sometimes if you want to get started, especially, use this formula to guide you and reflect on what you already know and what you're already passionate about, and then go from there. I also think that if we're already activists, there's room for us to reflect on our work right now too. Like where can I have the most amount of impact? And we always recommend starting small and local with one issue, and then you can always expand from there. We started just with the girls in our village and working whenever we went on family trips. And then when we were back home in Canada, we would like always be thinking about like how we could make sure those girls went back to school. But it was that one thing. And now our activism has expanded, and we have a nonprofit, and it's over like much more wide ranging, and like a lot more issues as well. And so especially at the beginning, sometimes it can get overwhelming. And some like a message that we shared in the documentary as well is that this idea, just because the problems are so big doesn't mean that we can't do our part to do something to resolve them. Because sometimes we think like, it's not going to make a difference. My little part of like my contributions are not going to make that much of a difference, and so I'd rather not do them at all. But if everyone started thinking that way, we just have like more than 7 billion people in the world sitting there and doing nothing about the challenges that exist. And so we need more people like you. We need people who are passionate about these issues, who want to take action and make a difference. And so it's definitely important and definitely possible too.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for being here for screening your documentary. It was incredible. You both are incredible.
Thank you so much. And it was really awesome having this interview with you, Andrea. Thank you so much for joining us. And to everyone watching, be sure to tune in for tomorrow's Angai at 20 sessions on various topics, including technology and innovation for gender equality, a self-care and activism workshop, and a session on feminist movements and leadership as well.